This is the Nasserman Hockey Podcast with James Nichols and John Zella.
Okay, welcome back to the Nasserman Hockey Podcast. James Nichols and John Zella here as always. And John, I gave you a homework assignment a couple nights ago, maybe a couple weeks ago now, so it's very late.
I don't like homework, so I probably didn't do it.
But I asked you to watch the Untold documentary, Crime and Penalties, about the Danbury Trashers. Have you gotten to it yet?
No, it is definitely on my list. But probably by the time I sit down in the evening or in the morning or whenever I'm watching TV, I've been watching the morning show and Ted Lasso.
Fantastic.
And that F1 show,
What show
Drive
is
to
that?
Survive. Oh my God. I don't give a shit about Formula One, but it is so good.
I don't think-
It's not as good as The Last Dance, but I put them together. It's like about sports I don't really follow, but the stories are really good.
Yeah?
And oh my God. First of all, if you haven't seen The Last Dance,
never even heard of it.
Yeah, the F1 show is real good. I
The
enjoy
Last
it.
Dance is in my queue on Netflix. I still haven't watched it.
Wow, that's it. I wish I could rewatch it for the first time.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. After this, you're going to go watch Untold. I'm going to go watch The Last Dance, and we'll talk about it the next episode.
I might rewatch The Last Dance at some point. Man, it was so good. I think it was a little bit of, when we were growing up, I mean, Michael Jordan and the Bulls, like that was basketball.
Yeah.
That was like the Yankees, that was the Red Wings and Colorado. Like it was these teams just kind of transcended everything else in sports. Like everybody knew about these things. And that story about, I mean, the Bulls in general, maybe I in the back of my head, I'm just kind of like dissecting it now in real time. It seemed a lot like the Islanders in the 70s, like the Bulls in the 80s leading up to their championships. It's not, I don't think it's quite as interesting. I think that Bulls, like when you watch this, it's all of the storylines when MJ first gets to Chicago and all this stuff, how they build up, the struggles they go through before they win in the late 80s against Detroit and all this other stuff. And then just the wackiness of that team and the characters as they win these championships. It's kind of, it's a little nostalgic seeing 90s shit in a documentary, because it's like, it's not history, but it's a long time ago. It's very strange.
So it's funny because it doesn't sound too different than Untold Crime and Penalties, the Danbury Trasher story. So definitely watch that. It's fantastic. I was in awe watching it. I knew about the Danbury Trashers. I didn't know the backstory though. And everything that goes with it. And if you're listening to this and you haven't watched it yet, go on Netflix right now. Go to the Untold documentary. The episode is Crime and Penalties. There are other episodes too, which I've heard are fantastic. I haven't gotten to them. There's one on like the Indiana Pacers when they were really good in the early 2000s. And then there's other ones not sports related. I think there's one on the Jenner family. So definitely some really cool stories. But the Danbury Trashers one, hits home for us. It's about hockey and everything, and a little more to it than just hockey. So it's really cool. You would love it, John. And if you're listening to this because you are a hockey fan, you would love it too.
Did you watch Ice Guardians? Is that there's one about the Enforcers that was really good.
Ice Guardians. I don't think I know that one.
There's one we'll have to post it somewhere, maybe in our Discord or something. We have to start a video channel.
Yeah,
Discord. If you haven't been there, it's very exciting. People are always chatting. There's like 150 people in there.
Yeah, it's actually really taken off. We were a bit surprised by it, but not surprised at the same time because, Islander fans are passionate about what they do and love to talk about the Islanders. So join our Discord if you haven't already. It's you can find the invite link in our bio on Twitter. It's in the link tree. I think all of our bios have the link tree in it, actually. So
yeah, I think we were pretty good about that. Whenever we put that together, and then it's just updating it.
Yeah, and if for some reason you can't find it, it's in our Twitter stream somewhere. It's been tweeted out a couple of times. But let's talk about the Islanders, John. What do you think?
I mean, it's getting close. When is training camp? You said it to me the other day. Like you,
Yeah. So the first on ice practice is September or training camp day is September 23rd. So
right?
yeah.
Because we were talking last night on my way home about something because I was coming home from the grocery store and I called you and we had a whole conversation and I regretted it because we were like, we're just going to forget this entire thing and we're not going to be able to. But now we remembered. So
Yeah, absolutely. So before you say anything further, let's get to On the Island. And you know, Zach Parise is finally an Islander. It's officially official. He is on the team. The terms, we don't know. We don't know what the terms are.
yeah, Staple had said it's likely league min at 750
Yeah,
for a year, which is
yeah.
fine.
That was the intel I got as well. I was told that it's false, but whatever. What do I know? I guess. Um, but yeah, league minimum, maybe some bonuses in there to boost it a little bit. Some incentive bonuses as well.
That would go into effect similar to Green's
I don't know if it's going to
on
go
this
into
year.
effect next season.
No, it would go for the season after 22-23. If there are any bonuses, if they're
Yeah,
over the cap, if they're at or over the cap,
it's
it'll
possible.
go. Well, that's what happened with Green last year into this season.
Yeah, but the media availability was made for media, and it was a nice interview where he seemed motivated. He was excited to come to the team. One interesting thing he said was he had a couple of teams in mind. I wonder if there were what the other teams were. I think he said there was three. I wonder if the other two that he's referencing were interested in him as well. If there was any negotiations or anything like that. But there were some comments made on playing with familiar faces and a familiar system from Zach Parise, and we actually have that here, and we're going to roll that clip. This is Zach Parise on playing with familiar faces and in the Lou Lamoriello system once again.
I think you always feel like there's a certain way that Lou's teams play, the way they compete, the way top to bottom, just they always play the game the right way, and that was always the case in New Jersey. And since then, I had kept in touch with him off and on, throughout the years, and so we've kept the relationship there. And as far as the players in the team, I mean, I've skated with Brock for the last couple of years. I've known Anders a little bit, but playing with Greener for that long a time, having getting to be good buddies with him from New Jersey, those type of things help with the transition. And just when you see some familiar faces in the locker room, it's always hard going to a new spot, but I think when you have that comfort of guys that guys you're familiar with, it just seems to ease the transition a lot.
So it's good to see that Parise not only is comfortable with guys who he has played with before, like Andy Green, but he referenced skating with Brock Nelson for a while. He knows Anders Lee, so it's going to be an easier transition than it would be for a guy coming to the team where he doesn't really know anybody. So I think he's going to fit in quite well here. And then he was later asked about, if he had a chip on his shoulder after being bought out by the Minnesota Wild. And here are his comments on that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, a lot of mixed emotions after that, but still some sense of relief at the same time. And but when something like that does happen, yeah, of course you want to get back to work right away and be ready for the following season. Just to, I know personally that I've still got a lot of good hockey left in me, but they didn't see it like that, and so to me it made it a unique but pretty exciting summer, with just a little, it's just a little extra motivation, like you said, to I don't know if the word is prove them wrong, but just to know that for myself, and honestly, that was my mentality last year too in the playoffs when I wasn't playing, is I know at some point I'm going to get in and I'll be ready, and that carried over into the summer, and that's been the mentality for the last little while.
So, a couple things that he says there. I still have a lot left in the tank. And then, he references they, as in Minnesota. They didn't think that. And then he further said, in not so many words, he further said that he was put in a position where maybe he wasn't in the, right position to succeed. Did you get that from what he said?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of players get in that position when they get a little bit older. They need to find where they can be a veteran presence on a team and really take them to the next level. You can look at Pat Maroon or any of these guys that are helping Tampa Bay or any of these other teams kind of get over that hump. Corey Perry and in Montreal, Parise can absolutely be that on Long Island. And I think in that third line role, I mean, he's likely playing under 15 minutes a night, and that might be perfect. He might have great energy all night. He wants to crash the net and kind of be a nuisance there. And I think it's perfect. So this is likely, the spot. I think he was playing on the third line, but he was getting scratched, and it might have just been, I think in large part in Minnesota, it was just a changing of the guard there. I think there are a few teams kind of going through those growing pains. Anaheim, San Jose, not to pick on California, but yeah, some of those teams are going through that, and Minnesota's doing it as well. So yeah, I think this is probably his best place to succeed. There's a lot of structure for him to walk into, not, outside of Lamoriello and, but on the ice with Trotz. It's very easy for somebody that to kind of come in and play a system. He's been able to study them and watch the Islanders and kind of go in training camp, get that time. Your role, you're going to go in. And, I think I saw in some other comments, he's jumping on a moving bus, right? Like it's moving in the right direction. He likes that. It's easy to get on board with what they're doing. So, yeah, I don't want to read between in the lines on his comments. I think he's just happy to be there and, be on, be a part of, be a cog in the Islanders machine moving forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's, definitely better suited to succeed here. This is a system that he's familiar with. It's a organization he's familiar with. You could take the GM out of, one place and put it in another, but that organization runs the same because it's the GM, right? So he's played in this organization, under the Devil name, right? Now it's just under the Islanders name. So he knows how it's going to work. And it's going to be a seamless fit, in my opinion. I think they're only going to benefit from having him here. And if you didn't read my article on it a couple weeks ago, in a lesser role, he'll succeed more.
I mean, if he scores 10 or 12 goals,
that's all you need.
That's all you. That might be whether it's Wahlstrom or Palmieri on that third line.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to score a ton of goals. Like that line in general will score a ton of goals. If Palms can get 15 or 20 and Pajot can get 10 and Parise can get 10, that might, I think every line is capable of those numbers. Yeah. Every line is capable of a number very similar to that. If Brock can get 20 to 25, Beauvillier can maybe crack 20 and continue to do that on a consistent basis. I think he's kind of have been doing that. And if, Bailey, again, he's maybe your Parise on that line. Maybe, all right, maybe you can get 12 goals. That'd be great. Every line is scoring 40, 50 goals a season. That's consistency. Yeah. This is the first time in a while you can look at the Islanders forward group and go, wow, top to bottom, I don't really see a lot of weak links. Like if Parise is the weak link, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Right. And that's not to say anything of him negatively. I think that's common because I think he's really good. I think he can, as a role player, I think he can be on the PK. He's got energy. He crashes. He can set a good example.
Well, I think
there's a lot of things he can bring.
I think what's big for him is he's good on the power play, and that's something that the Islanders need. So
they need an Anders Lee on the second unit, in front of that net, and
I think that's going to be Palmieri though. We could dissect the power play all day, but I think he's probably going to set up, in my opinion, on the right side of the ice, because he's that left-hand shot. He's got a good shot, and I think Paul Mary's that net front presence on the power play too.
You can see how that shakes out. But
because
either way, I think they'll both be a presence. Is
Yeah.
it? So I'm thinking about this a little bit and thinking about Tampa Bay and how they kind of, a lot of Stanley Cup teams do this somehow. They like take a bunch of players from another team and they kind of, it adds up and they like wind up being really good. Like Tampa did it with the Rangers. The Islanders are doing it with the Devils a little bit, where there are these pieces, like 2 or 3 pieces that come over. I don't know that it's quite the same as like the Rangers taking all those players from the Oilers years and just being like, "You're Rangers now. Look at we won the cup. It's the New York Oilers." But we'll see. Hopefully that shakes out. Schneider is still in the system somewhere. Likely if he's
Corey
still,
Schneider.
I think he's still. He is. No, he's not in the. He won't be in the AHL.
Right now, I think he's a free agent. There's nothing on Corey Schneider just yet.
Oh.
Speaking of, before I get to the next player, Parise did later talk about his fit. He does believe he fits because of the system. But he was asked about what he brings to the team as far as his goal scoring touch. And what I liked his comments because he, it was a true Islander comment. If you're an Islander, you would say something like this. And he said, I bring that goal scoring, but it's team first mentality here for me. I'm not here, to be selfish and score goals and, take away from other guys on the team. I'm here to help the team win. And I just thought that was a true Islander comment. I really liked hearing that from him. Not that I expected anything less.
Yeah, I think it's timely more than, it's the quality of the goal, not the quantity.
Right.
If, it wouldn't have taken anything major to win that game 7. You need a guy to score 1 goal and another guy to score 1 goal.
Yep.
You're not even asking one guy to score 2. You're not even asking him to have a breakout game. You're going out there and saying score 2. And you don't need him to score every single night. You need him to get you to an OT or win in a shootout, or it could be anything. He could score the game tying goal and they win it in the 3rd, but you just need him to help you there. Yeah. It's not every single night. They can have a new quote hero every single night, to put it in some cliche term, but yeah, that's all you need him to. I mean, that's what they're asking of everybody on that team.
Right.
Every night, someone's got to step up. A new line's got to be ready. So, I think he fits into that mold pretty well.
Yep. He was later asked about, talking to guys about what it's like playing on the Islanders, some former teammates. And in referencing Travis Zajac, this was interesting. He talked about him in past tense. So it seems like it's possible Zajac might not be returning to the Islanders. We know he's not signed yet. We also know that there's a lot of things that have gone untold for a while this summer. So we'll see how that plays out. But, he did comment on Zajac and the Islanders as if it was like a past tense thing.
Was it about the Islanders or about his time playing with him in the past?
It was about Travis Zajac. Parise had asked Travis Zajac, about playing with the Islanders, and the way he conveyed it was that, it was a good time for him when he was there, but it's not that way anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know that I necessarily picked that up. And I try to, like I said before, I understand seeing it that way.
Yeah.
And not to say that won't ultimately be the
case. It could have just been, he didn't mean to say it that way.
Yeah. Word choice or something like that. You never really, especially with the Islanders right now, you never really know.
Yeah.
So waiting for it to kind of shake out. I also wouldn't be super surprised if he didn't come back. I think he'd be, I guess he'd be an asset. I don't know what yet. Between him and Zajac getting league min, you still have Komarov. We've gone through this list a million times. I think Komarov is a perfectly good 13th, 14th forward with Panic. That's fine, I guess. Sure. Wait for somebody else to kind of step up, depending on what the AHL team looks like. Kind of go from there. Maybe Koivula's having a hell of a time. Maybe Golyshev's having a hell of a year. Maybe, who knows? Dalcole will likely be around on a two-way deal. You have a lot of options. You don't. Zajac definitely filled a very important role last year, especially in that playoff run. You can argue till we're blue in the face about whether or not they should have put Wahlstrom back in if he was healthy. We're beyond that. But, he was good for winning faceoffs and that kind of thing. And I don't know. I think the Islanders are in fairly decent shape.
Yeah.
Without him. Like I'm not mad if he comes back, but I'm not going to be devastated if he doesn't.
Well, you and I both know, as well as the rest of the Islanders universe, that there's a lot that can still happen between now and the next couple of weeks because there's less than 2 weeks of training camp and they still need a defenseman. So who knows? Maybe, a Leo Komarov is on the move or someone, I don't think it's going to be anybody in the top 12. I don't think it's going to be any of the 5 defensemen that we have that we know are going to be on the blue line.
There's got to be only an addition at this point.
Yeah.
And I wonder, so what were we talking about on the phone yesterday? Because I had brought up only because, look, it's when you're listening to this, it's the 15th or beyond that. And training camp is the 23rd, you said?
Yep.
So it's much less than 2 weeks, much more like a week and a half.
Sure.
There's a point where teams will be scrambling to get under the cap, and there might be some waiver things. You might be able to get somebody that doesn't want to put a player on waivers and just lose them for nothing, so they will trade them to just get something. They're likely, and there are a few options there for Lou. I don't know what that is. I don't know what any of these teams are looking at. They might have LTIR that I'm not well versed in. That maybe you look on Cap Friendly and maybe it's relevant. So I wonder if there's an option internally. Like I want Thomas Hickey to work. You explained it yesterday to me, and I know I couldn't agree more why that wouldn't work. But I also at the same time, like, there's just not time. Like you're right up until 8 days left or 10, 11 days left until, and then I'm like, oh, okay, then what?
Well, here's the way I see it with Thomas Hickey. Do the Islanders go out and sign an Andy Green for the past couple of years to play as the 6th defenseman with Thomas Hickey still on the team? Do they have to do that? No, they have Thomas Hickey who could probably play those minutes, but there's something there that Barry Trotz is seeing that he doesn't like.
Yeah, so, that's what you said yesterday, and I agree with that, and I don't. You are not wrong.
So say that he's going to leapfrog Andy Green at this point now and play top 4 minutes, I'm like, I don't know about that. That's why I think that there's still something yet to happen.
Look, I want something to happen. I don't necessarily want it to be Thomas Hickey. I think it's a great story, right? But I don't think he's not the ideal. I'll say that straight up. He's obviously not the ideal person. Yeah. They're just running out of time.
But I think that
do that.
I think that, in the same breath, Lou thinks there's time. And what's his motto? If you have, you use it.
Right.
So, you and I are saying that there's no time. But, when those trades went down for Leddy and Boychuk, it was last minute.
I'm not saying it's impossible. Did they start
training camp that year, or did they come halfway through?
I think it was 2 days before the first game of the season. Like I honestly don't even think that it was barely. They may not have gotten a preseason game in, but it was like I believe it was 2 days before the first game of the season or something to that effect.
This is what I think could happen again. History could repeat itself.
So,
I don't think it'll be 2 players, but I think it'll be 1.
Do not tweet at us and remind us that it was a different GM, please. We are well aware Garth Snow is not Lou Lamoriello. Please don't do that.
I didn't think we needed to say that, but you're probably right in stating it.
Just because it's a long time ago now, longer than I care to admit anyway. But I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying the closer it gets, the more I'm like, I don't know where else they're going to go. There's not a ton of, again, with how much space they have and then needing to make the other move. It's going to get the closer you get to the end of training camp and the beginning of the season, the more teams are going to tighten their belt. there's nowhere for. I mean, unless you can dump Komarov off to another team, Buffalo, or because they're not trying to be good, so they might take a Komarov just for one season, just to get on. They don't have players. They're well below the cap floor. My understanding, they're at not even 58 million.
Right.
Ottawa might be in the same boat. They might like a Komarov in their lineup,
maybe
as a veteran and all of that. Whatever his cap hit is, $3 million. It's not that big of a deal if they have the cash. Maybe both of those teams don't necessarily, but whatever. That's my problem. The closer you get, the harder it's going to be to move a Komarov to even get somebody. So where they stand now with the dollars and cents of it all, because if you put Komarov in the A, I don't think it's that much off his contract. You can get, I believe, half off Hickey. I think you can bury. I think Johnson is a wash. I think his contract. I don't know that it does anything different in the HL. But you're talking about $1.5 million in addition, so still under $5 million. Like who you, and the higher your cap hit goes, it's likely a better player. Then you're talking about different assets there.
Yeah,
again,
depends.
We're not talking about a roster player. That's where it gets confusing to me. Like, I just don't know I don't know what the options are.
It's good that that's not our job to figure out. We can speculate all we want. But again, at the end of the day, it is the job of Lou Lamoriello. I just have a feeling that this is not, business is not done. I think there's still more to do. So we will see how that goes in the next coming weeks. But I think the point we wanted to make here was, you liked the idea that I had said, if Thomas Hickey wasn't playing top 6 minutes over Andy Green, and they felt the need to go out and sign him and then bring him back again, that says to me that top 4 minutes for Thomas Hickey is not likely, nor Sebastian Aho.
You're probably right. I mean, like, I know you're right. I'm preparing myself for what could be, though.
So prepare for the worst,
I think
hope for the best.
I suppose so. That might be the worst case scenario.
And who knows? Listen, if it happens that Thomas Hickey for some reason is playing in the top 6, whether it's in the top 4 or the top 6, and he flourishes, great. But I don't know if they're willing to bet on that, given the circumstances that they believe that they can win right now.
Yes, I think there has to be a bigger deal if they weren't going to pop for a forward, a first line forward, which is fair. I said that from almost the beginning. Likely trying to replace Leddy, that has to be the priority.
Yeah,
looks like that's going to be true. For the first time ever, I've been kind of right. Now it's just a matter of finding out who that is. It likely is a bigger deal, and I think that's why it's harder to kind of pinpoint where it might be coming from, because it might not be the team at the bottom or a team at the top. It might be somebody in the middle that's just looking for the right piece. Does a team? I don't know. I don't know every team's defensive issues or where they lack offensively. If they're looking for a Kieffer Bellows, like what teams does he likely fit in on? You got to take out all the Metro Division teams, maybe even some of the Atlantic teams.
Right.
So that's not then you're looking at, Anaheim and San Jose. You don't want any of those players. They're not very good. It just gets smaller and smaller. So that's where my problem is too. Like, who for what they can afford and where they need to dump the salary, I have no idea. Where, is there anyone on Calgary? Is there anybody that makes even remote sense from Calgary? I have no idea. I've looked at it a million times. Nobody looks attractive to me.
Right.
Now, we've seen that before with Lamoriello picking players. Are like, oh, I never really thought of that. That makes a ton of sense. They make it work on Long Island. Trotz just makes it work.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's teams on the cusp. Like, who's Florida going to give up? I don't know. They like they're trying to do it. They might be a top 3 team in the Atlantic. So you're looking at a very small window of teams likely to help the Islanders. Like Calgary makes sense. They only see each other in the Cup final.
Right.
Oh, that's a long way away. Not to say that nobody in the East will make a deal like that, but yeah, I don't know. I'm interested. I want it to be one of those like boy Chuck Leddy things.
This is like that It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme where the guy's like with the hand motions and you got like all the wires on the board.
Oh yeah,
figure out what he's doing.
I could be Charlie for sure.
I never watched It's Always Sunny. Is that his name? I've heard I have to watch it.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good. I've heard I have
to watch it.
I watched it in college, like the suite of guys I lived in. We all watch every whatever it was Thursday at whatever time. That was like our thing. But yeah, it was really good. I'm trying to find. I don't know where to watch it anymore. It might be on Hulu.
It is on Hulu. I skipped by it yesterday and thought about it for half a second, and then I think I fell asleep because that's where I'm at in my life now. Falling asleep unexpectedly. All right, moving on. Sort of. So even though we don't know who will be that second pairing defenseman, you did propose a good question because it does seem like there are raised expectations this year for not only within the locker room and in the organization of the New York Islanders, but it seems like this is finally the year where everyone's kind of like, Islanders are a favorite. Do we think they see this? Do we think this is finally a team with no adversity?
I thought of this question. I was listening to Puck Soup, and Ryan Lambert pretty quickly named the Islanders as one of the teams out of the Metro, right? And he's a tough cookie.
He's a tough sell, and I've heard it on multiple podcasts from multiple reputable journalists in the NHL.
Then down goes Brown, Sean McAdoo. Also, he qualified it with, I just don't want to be wrong about the Islanders anymore.
Right. Frank Saravalli.
Yeah, there have been a number. You're kind of seeing it over and over, and thinking about the team and what they've gone. Like their adversity is like really late into the playoffs. They've kind of had this chip on their shoulder. People not really rating them properly. They were a largely underrated team the last 3 years. It's easy to look at it on paper. Now I think people are looking at their forward group and saying that's legit. They definitely have 2 goalies that are legit. They have most of a defensive core that, even without Leddy, I think is okay, depending on who they get in to kind of fill his role. I think they're a playoff team. They're that type of thing. They're going to be in a new arena. They finally got some UFAs signed. They got their white whale. Like there's nothing hanging over them. There's no adversity. There's no storyline.
Yeah.
There's nothing. And I wonder if they can be successful without that. I don't, they can say all they want that they didn't pay attention to this and that kind of thing, but that's part of the fueling the fire for that coaching staff. I don't think they have TSN, in the locker room and they're like, look at what these motherfuckers are saying. I don't think that's happening, but it definitely seeps into the room. That's definitely part of what that internal storyline is, they don't believe in us, but we're going to do it. We're going to show them, like that underdog mentality. I wonder if they can do it without it.
I don't know about not being able to do it without it, because I don't know that even last year that's where it was. I don't know if the mentality was there. Maybe they were.
People definitely just underrated, like severely underrated them. And
I'll agree with you on that. But I think what I'm trying to say here is, yes, year 1 of Barry Trotz, they were written off. I think in year 2, and after having the extenuating circumstances that they were under, with the COVID years and everything, I think in the locker room it was just, okay, I'm coming to the rink, I got to get a job done. And I think that's just what Trotz and Lamoriello have ingrained in their minds. I don't think for a long time, or for the past I want to say since year one of Barry Trotz, it hasn't been us against the world, prove people wrong. I think since then it's been, I have a job to do, come to the rink and get the job done. So I
Wasn't
think
that literally part of their marketing strategy though? Like very recently?
I mean, I think no, I think it was again. I think it was back in year one.
Maybe.
I don't think it was more. I think it was less recent than we're remembering. So I think that this could be and should be the first season where the Islanders don't peak at some point in the season and end up, as a 3 or 4 seed heading into the playoffs. There should be, this should be the year where they get the job done year round and through the playoffs.
I want them to be. I think that's the one thing is I do want them to be more consistent. I don't want them to have this. You got to look in February or when they get back, and that might be the break that they need. Save for a few guys that go to the Olympics.
Right.
That might be the break that they need, but you hope that going into January, you don't see that slide.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I think that there's no reason why they should peak at some point this season and tail off and then get into almost stumble into the playoffs 3, 4 seed. I think that there should be more consistency this season because and not to say that the Lightning aren't going to be a juggernaut. They're going to be again, but they got a little more shallow this year, and the Islanders got a little bit deeper this year. They lost the Lightning. They lost a huge piece of their team in their whole third line. Palat's gone. Goudreau's gone. Who rounded out that line?
Other guy.
Other guy.
I can't remember either.
They're gone. So they got a little shallower, and the Islanders got a little deeper. And that was the only team that they couldn't get over.
Yeah, and so, I wonder too if if the Islanders can be a little bit more consistent, and then they really do turn it on in the playoffs. They play kind of playoff hockey all year, which is probably
Blake Coleman.
Coleman. That might be why they tail off because it's just exhausting. They can find some level of consistency. They'd be one of the rare teams they could be one of the rare teams in the top 3 in their division to actually make a push. You see a lot of these teams the last few years, either the Islanders have knocked them off or they've gotten knocked off in the second round. And, you have these, save for the Lightning, lower seeded teams making it pretty far into the playoffs. So hopefully the Islanders can find that consistency and not fall into that trap, especially having made it as far as they have for 2 years in a row. At this point, expectations are, at the very least, you're making it to Game 7 of the conference final.
Yeah, and I mean,
there's a high bar. It's so hard to do what they did 2 years in a row. I really do not want to take. If they lose in Game 7 of the second round, I don't know that I'm taking anything away from that. I think I'm upset. I don't like it, but that's still amazing consistency.
I could agree with that. It is a very amazing consistency. I think what makes them take the next step, though, is establishing their dominance in the regular season and carrying that through the postseason.
Well, working out all these kinks, finding consistency in scoring.
Yeah, exactly.
Making sure that the goalie rotation is good. Everyone's getting, no one's dipping. I mean, it's going to happen. You're going to have these little losing streaks, 3-5 games, and they're not going to look good. But it can't go. They're falling. It's like 11, 15 games where you're like, yeah, I think they've gotten points in 5 games, and they've, most of those are shootouts, or overtime losses or something. They're not even wins. So I think that's what you're looking for. I mean, and to be fair, that's something that predates Lamoriello. That most of this team is not what it was 4 years ago, right? This is an enormous turnover for regulars anyway in the lineup.
Yeah,
and we've always had this trouble with this team. There's always been a consistency issue with this team.
Yeah, but again, that was then. This is now. This is probably the deepest team we've seen in a long time. A long time.
That with adding Parise, I can't remember a forward group quite like this. Even if the fourth line takes a step back, I think it's still a really strong group. Maybe, you give Cizikas, he's going to get PK time. You don't need to play those guys that much. It's all situational.
Especially because, like you said, you don't need to play those guys that much, especially because now there's more, in my opinion, there's more weapons. Palmieri washes with Eberle. Another year of Wahlstrom, which I'm going to keep beating that drum. He's going to take a step. It's going to be a big year for him. And Parise gives them more weapons. So if you're spending more time in the offensive zone than you are in the defensive zone, those guys don't need to play as much anymore. Maybe they're a little more fresh, and when you need them to make noise, bring the energy, they are fresh enough to do so.
I think too, looking at other teams, if they're already playing their first and second pairing against the Islanders, you got to pick two lines. Is it if you're going to do Palmieri and as a strong winger and Barzell, and they're on two separate lines, or if Wahlstrom is on that first line or he's on that third line, like you have to choose who you're kind of line matching against the Islanders, who are just going to roll their lines. Right. That means that second line or that third, there's going to be an odd line out where they get a weaker matchup.
Right.
Where that second line might play against the second pairing or third pairing. Right. They might be able to get lucky here and there, which opens up a Nelson and a Beauvillier to kind of pot some extra goals here. And really, because it's going to be harder to line match against a team that's not line matching against you and just rolling their lines.
Yeah.
And B, how do you choose which line? How do you it's
very hard to choose a line against this team.
And I think that's really important, because you can not only that, right? Then you have guys that can go up and down the lineup. You can throw Barzell, Pajot, Palmieri out there, right? They do have that option.
You can mix and match a little bit, yeah.
Or all right, you want Pajot's going to go out there and win a faceoff. Barzell, Pajot, Wahlstrom for one shift. Every once in a while, you might see, the face-off get-off guy, the Fogo guy. That's definitely Pajot. You want him to go win a draw really quick. Yeah. But that's not impossible, late in a period, something like that, where that's deadly. I think that's a much, like you said, it's a much deeper team than we've seen in the past.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think that this is I don't know if I want to say it's a make or break year, because I wouldn't be surprised to see them back at it again, in 2022-23. But this is a big year, man. Big year, and
big expectations with UBS.
Yeah.
It really is. We were going to mention this a little later, but the sellout, I think that's really cool. There's single season tickets on sale.
Yeah, we can talk about that now.
Likely other games will sell out. They might have a little streak, which would be great to see in the new arena. Make or break. The window is not open that long with this group. I'm in the middle on
that's another podcast. Let's talk.
It's another podcast. But either way, my opinion, I'll try to hold myself to this, is that the window is not as open as long as people think. It's got some time, but you don't want another year to go by. It's going to be it's going to get a little easier cap space next summer. So it's possible that window gets knocked open another 1 or 2 years from what I'm thinking at the moment. I don't know if it's make or break necessarily. I think they have good momentum.
Yeah.
It's so hard because there is so much parity. The Islanders are just good at being the Islanders. So you expect them. There's a ton of consistency for them in the playoffs, and they make it far, and they've grown. And I think the two series against Tampa Bay could not be more different.
Yeah.
I think they were so much better against Tampa this year. It really depends on their road. If you're playing, I think it depends on their road to the conference final. Who are the two teams you're playing to get there? Because if you're a wild card and you have to go against Boston in the first round, they didn't really get better, but you don't want to play. You still don't. I don't want to play them still.
I agree.
In the you know what I mean? Like they won last year and they literally beat them up. I still don't want I don't want to redo that. I'll take the victory and never talk about it again.
I don't want to redo that.
Yeah, I don't want to like because you never know that they're just good.
They are.
They're one of those teams.
But
so if you're not, if maybe it's imperative that they make it into one of those 3 spots, so that they're. But then you're if you're the 2nd seed, you're still playing the 3rd seed.
Well, listen,
you've gotten you've had the Penguins number the last few years. Washington just got older. I don't think they got better. And they're in a good position as far as the Metro's concerned. You just don't want to be in a wild card spot. If they make a wild card spot, I'm worried about it. So that might be the make or break, like seeing where they are throughout the season and kind of dissecting from there.
I think there's no reason why they can't be at the top of the division at the end of the year. Like you said, the Caps got older. The Penguins got older. They're going to be minus Sidney Crosby to start the season. They're going to be minus Evgeny Malkin until January. So, the division is not getting. I mean, look, the Flyers. I don't know. The jury's out on them because
Carter
they
Hart,
interesting moves.
If he's not good, their alternative is, I believe, Martin Jones.
Yes.
Yikes!
And they
that's
made some,
terrible.
They got Ristolainen, and he's shaky. They got Cam Atkinson, which I think was actually a good move for them. But they got rid of Jacob Voracek, so there was a shakeup there. Who knows if the chemistry is going to be there? That. Yeah. The Rangers are up and coming, but I don't think they're there yet. They lost Buchnevich, and I think that's going to be huge.
They got tougher. I don't know that means.
I don't know.
The Islanders are a different kind of tough than what they brought in.
Yes,
Islanders are closer to that modern. We're just going to play you tough. We're not going to make your lives easier. Not literally punch your face in. I wouldn't be surprised if Johnson gets into those games, and I don't think they want Martin going against Reeves at this point. There's I think a pretty large age difference there. You might see Johnson just get the call for that, just to be like, just come in and beat this guy up, or get your face punched in. Reeves is no joke.
Yeah, no, he's
I don't think you want Martin out long term. Is my point. They're gonna fight if they're both in the game.
Yeah,
and again, I don't think there's I think Reeves is in a category all his own.
Yeah,
in the league, I don't think he's like the toughest guy ever in the league, obviously, but
right now
there's no one. I don't know anybody that's like
he's maybe Tom Wilson, but I don't know.
I don't think he's a fighter. I just think he's a dick.
He's a fighter, but
I don't think Tom Wilson. He's not. He's not. His asset is not being a fighter. It's being an asshole and cheap hits and all, being enormous.
Yeah. So we'll see how it plays out, but I don't see any reason why they can't top off the division. It might not be the hardest division in the league anymore. The Atlantic Division is pretty good themselves. So.
I mean, I think the road goes through the Islanders, and that might be the adversity, is that every team's going to come to play you now. No one's underrating you. Everyone's very properly rating you. They're going to show up. They want to quiet your home crowd. It's no secret anymore, but it's a lot like the Ovechkin power play shot. It's coming. What's going to happen, but it's really hard to defend against, and you're going to fall victim to it. That's the Islanders. Everyone knows what they're doing, but they're really good at it.
You and I talk about, who's underrating the Islanders. I don't know that the other 31 teams in the NHL ever underrated them as much as the media and guys like you and I are underrating them, or were underrating them in the past. Now, you and I weren't underrating them, but the media underrated them for a long time. But I don't know that the other 31 teams, coaches, and GMs were like, "Oh, we're going to play the Islanders, easy win."
I don't know about that, but you want it. I think now the narrative is, hey, unless you guys want to get embarrassed tonight, you better show up against the Islanders.
Right.
I think that's different than, all right, guys, you got to get up for this one. That's a very different, like, anyone could say that any game.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think that's underrating so much as not paying any particular minds. Now, yeah, you're gonna get embarrassed by this team physically on the scoreboard, all of that.
Yeah.
Now it's a very different team and a narrative around the team. So I think they're paying closer attention to the Islanders. So now, again, I think it's just properly rating instead of not rating at all or under.
Yeah, I agree. All right, quickly, you mentioned the UBS Arena sellout on opening night for UBS Arena, November 20th versus the Flames. It was news. Some people asked me, why is this news? And it was news because, the team asked me to announce it. So I did. It is the way it is. So, yes, the first game of the season and the first game at UBS Arena is a sellout. Single game tickets are on sale. Pretty great. Moving forward, some cool news. Brendan Burke is joining Turner Sports' new roster for NHL coverage. This will be in addition to his coverage with the Islanders, and more on the Turner Sports roster a little bit later. All right, so let's talk about the Islanders RFAs that remain. We got Kieffer Bellows still unsigned. Anatoly Golyshev still unsigned, but I do believe that he's actually on his way to Long Island today. And Otto Koivula still unsigned. What's next with these guys? The interesting thing to me here is Anatoly Golyshev, and I say this because he came over from the KHL with the purpose of, playing in the NHL, and that top 12 is pretty packed. I don't know that a guy like him, you look at the history of players coming over from the KHL wanting to play immediately in the NHL. Does he have he doesn't have a spot? I don't know.
Not in the NHL.
I don't know if he's going to sign up to be a 13th forward. I don't know if he's going to sign up to go play in the AHL. So you might.
It's got to be in Bridgeport.
It's got to be Bridgeport, and you might see another situation of a player who the Islanders had the rights to, or convince the guy to come over from the KHL and say, nope, not working out. I'm not playing on the team. See you later.
I don't know. I wonder how that goes, because it was even a little crowded last year. Like, there wasn't that much room. Even with Lee down, you needed to show something kind of special to get into the lineup. And then they were going to bring in a first line player in Palmieri, or an additional offensive player. Then they bring in Zajac. Similar to your point about Hickey, you don't bring in Zajac if you think Golyshev can add something.
Right.
Or something like, or Dal Cole was still in and out of the lineup. Wallstrom was still in and out of the lineup. Dal Cole's presumably, again, on a two-way contract, presumably. He's got to be someone that Trotz is going to call up in a pinch. It's not going to be somebody like Golyshev. As for the others, your guess is as good as mine. Now, you assume Bellows and Koivula just play in the A, but Koivula's been there a while.
Yeah.
Maybe not as long as we think. Could be some kind of asset. I wonder if that's both of those players. It's just they're waiting to see what they can trade for that defender that they need. So It doesn't make sense to sign them to a number. They rather the other team can have those conversations. That might be part of this holdup. Yeah. Is other teams like, all right, Calgary, I don't know for who, but okay, Calgary, go ahead, go talk to Kieffer, see if you can get a deal done. Yeah. And they might not come to terms. They can't make that. The Islanders in Calgary cannot make that deal. Could be the same with Koivula, or any other assets for that, or Golyshev for that matter. Islanders could be trading his rights, so that might be part of the holdup with some of these RFAs. Is they're actually trade assets, they're trade chips that don't have deals because it doesn't make sense to do that.
Right. I think there's an appeal to getting a player who's on an RFA contract just because, or who's a restricted free agent, just because you have the ability to manage that asset. How much you want to pay for that asset, especially because these guys are unproven, right? They haven't been at the NHL level, and if they have, it was very brief. So you have the ability to manage that asset how you want, and let's just say for argument's sake, a Golyshev or a Bellows or a Koivula or two of the three go to Anaheim. There's a pretty good chance they're going to get in the lineup over there, and it could be for a cheap number that Anaheim likes.
Yeah, you wonder where, Koivula could be he could just jump into the NHL as a center. Some other team might have him on the wing for a little bit to get his NHL sea legs under him, and then transition him to center at some point. Having him be around the organization for so long, I don't know a ton about him. I think he's played okay in Bridgeport, and that's about it. His time with the Islanders have been very brief over, a few years with the pro team. So with the NHL team rather. So I'm not sure, and that might be what some of this holdup is that they're trying to make deals with players that need deals.
Yep.
So you're just adding a layer of complexity on that, and it could be with a number of teams.
Yeah.
Just makes everything take a little bit longer.
Yeah, forward group is pretty crowded. So we're curious to see what's going to happen with these names because they're so close. They could go either way, NHL or AHL, but you wonder if they might be on the move.
NHL certainly not with the Islanders, but point
right.
taken.
Well, yes, exactly. So we'll see what happens. The NHL Network has been rolling out their top 50 players, and it seems like Matthew Barzal keeps creeping up this list every year. And he was named in the top 30. Is he number 30? I think he is number 30.
He is exactly number 30, right behind Connor Hellebuyck, who seems real low on that list.
Yeah, I would agree with that because if it's not Andrei Vasilevsky, who's the best goaltender in the league, it's Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah, and neither of those goalies is the most recent Vezina winner.
True. Very true.
And that might be a function. I don't know. The goaltender thing is really annoying to kind of dissect because that's the same treatment that Varlamov is going to get in the future about his time with the Islanders. What's what they said about Brodeur? Was it the system in front of them, or are they actually good? My famous line: two things can be true. Like, you still have to stop the puck, even on the best teams. If they have a shitty goalie, that's it.
Yeah.
Look at the Penguins. The Islanders just destroyed two crappy goalies, and that was it.
Yep.
The Islanders have been that team that couldn't get a stop.
That's true. Oh God.
So it's, I think we've seen both sides of it. Like, you can, both things kind of have to be there.
Yeah.
You need a goalie to be able to steal you a game here and there, but that's just part of being a good team. Somebody was going to be the hero that night. Right. Sometimes it's your goalie. Doesn't always need to be. They just need to be good enough. You're not looking for a Chris Osgood, but you need to be better than that on a consistent basis. Anyway, yes, I don't understand how that works some of the times because they don't always get the best treatment.
Yeah, but Barzal in the top 30. I'm going to assume he's the only Islander in the top 30 and in the top 50. But hey, one is better than none, right? Before we get to Around the Rink, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Support for this week's episode is brought to you by DraftKings. Week 1 may be over, but the season's just getting started at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. To kick off Week 2, DraftKings is giving new customers $200 in free bets instantly when they bet $1 on any football game. Listen up because you don't want to miss this. Head to the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a bet of $1 on any Week 2 game to receive $200 in free bets instantly. If Sportsbook is not yet available in your state, DraftKings still has huge cash prizes up for grabs all season long with their daily fantasy contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That's promo code THPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or PA only. New customers only, minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer, restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Additional support for this podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Attention listeners across the galaxy, all the way from Australia to Houston. Do we have a pube problem? If so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff with the 4th generation brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Kick your pubes to the next planet with the Performance Package 4.0. The orbits in your pants will feel like they're in zero gravity when you use the best tools for the job from the leaders in male grooming. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get your rocket ready for takeoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code NHP20. That's code NHP20. We've all had scary nicks, and Manscaped can help you with your confidence. Ready for an out-of-this-world experience, fellas? Look no further than the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped that has just taken off not only in the United States, but Canada, the UK, across Europe, Australia, South Africa, and Singapore. Inside this package, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your whole solar system. The 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multi-function on-off switch that can engage a travel lock, and is even waterproof. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes a weed whacker. It's like having a little astronaut to chop the worst weeds up to your nose and in your ear. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code NHP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code NHP20 at manscaped.com. Your boys need some help. For a clean Trinity and beyond, your space balls will thank you.
All right, so let's get to Around the Rink. And still a number of big-name restricted free agents unsigned with training camp just a few short weeks away, John. On the list, Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson, so 2 big names in Vancouver. Kirill Kaprizov, who talks pretty quiet right now with Minnesota.
I saw that.
Dan
Bill
Rosen
Guerin
just wrote that.
Yeah, I think he spoke with Bill Guerin and former Islander.
Yeah, the question there was, is it possible Kaprizov plays in the KHL for at least the start of the KHL season while they negotiate? But it doesn't look like that's happening because the KHL season's underway, and Kaprizov is not playing for any team over there, despite a big offer. I think it was something like 7 digits, which is crazy. But I think Kaprizov does want to just stick with the Wild. It's just there's obstacles they're saying in this deal. So Kaprizov still unsigned, Brady Tkachuk still unsigned, which I don't understand why.
I mean, it could just be, even though Pierre Dorion was extended as GM of Ottawa. Yep. That word escaped me, extended, for a second. Maybe that slowed down his ability to have a conversation with Tkachuk. It could be that they don't. The struggle I think Ottawa's had over the last few years is they just didn't want to spend the cash. So that might be. Now they've paid some other guys. Some other players on this team have gotten some decent deals lately. They're
Drake
not.
Batherson
There's
a big deal.
There's been a few of them. They have $24.5 million in space. So it's not like that's the problem.
The rumor is that Tkachuk turned away an 8x8 and he wants, I think more on the table. But honestly, I don't know what else you need to see out of this guy. He does it all. He does literally everything. He scores, he hits, he can put a puck tape to tape. He's the face of that franchise. If I'm the Senators, I'm paying that guy. I would take 1 million Brady Tkachuks on the Islanders.
Yeah, he's damn, that it would be something on the Islanders. I don't know what. I mean, 2 20-goal seasons.
He's only getting
17 goals in 56 games last season.
Yeah,
he's not quite a point per game player.
But he brings so much more than that.
Oh, he does. He has 250 penalty minutes in 200 games.
Yeah,
he's mixing it up. He's an all around middle, top 6 player on your team. I was gonna say middle 6, but leaning towards a second line player. I think he's a very good second line player. Is what I'm trying to say.
You know what he is? He's gonna be a better Brad Marchand. He's gonna get under your skin. He's gonna score goals. He's bigger.
I don't know about better Marchand.
I think he's gonna be.
You think he's a 100-point guy? You forget. I've done this
Depends who
too.
his supporting cast is.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I think Marchand is on his own. I mean, we saw that in the playoff series last year.
Yeah.
Marchand on his own at times is just like,
Listen,
somebody get closer to him. Like, I don't know. It was like he had repellent on.
maybe he smells.
Yeah, the rat has repellent. Somehow he's both.
Continuing the list of restricted free agents, Rasmus Dahlin is on that list. Big name in Buffalo, big defender that needs to get signed. And Nolan Patrick is on the list. He just got traded to Vegas looking for a new start, former second overall pick. I think Vegas is wondering if they found themselves a diamond in the rough. Injury history there. Hasn't really had a consistent stay in the league. So maybe Vegas is trying to find a diamond in the rough at the center position because they're pretty weak down the middle. So Nolan Patrick needs to be signed still. Big names.
God,
Big
he was
names.
not good last year.
No, he hasn't been good ever, really.
I mean, he's only been the league 3 seasons. He has two 13-goal seasons. He's not like he's a bottom 6 guy, but and I know this is not like everyone's favorite stat, especially not anymore. But he was a -30 last year. Like at some point, that's a problem, right? Like
the whole Flyers were a problem.
Yeah, the whole team. They couldn't really get a stop.
Yeah.
Hutton. No, I'm sorry. Hart is too many Carter H's. Carter Hart was a lot like either Brizgalov or a couple other goalies where they were either really good or they were bad. Mike Smith has been like that. He has an incredible year and then he falls off.
Yep. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see if he can bounce back. Like I said, he was a former second overall pick. He was thought to possibly be the number 1 overall pick, but when the Devils took Heischer instead, health issues hindered him, and we'll see how it works out for Vegas. I'm interested to see what that contract looks like. I think it'll be a bridge. But maybe Patrick's looking for more security because the injuries have been many with him. So, camp is real close and a lot of big names out there. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Turner Sports has officially announced NHL broadcast talent for upcoming season. Like we stated earlier, the New York Islanders' Brendan Burke will be on the call in addition to his usual spot next to Butch Goring with MSG Studios. But the studio team with Turner Sports will consist of Wayne Gretzky, Anson Carter, Rick Tocchet, Paul Bissonnette, and Liam McHugh. The commentator team will be Kenny Albert, Eddie Olczyk, Brendan Burke, and Darren Pang. Keith Jones will be at ice level. So pretty good team all around. And then further, they'll also have Jen Botterill. I always do this. Jen Botterill, Tarek El Bashar, and Jackie Redmond as contributors.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. I hope Wayne Gretzky is good. I don't want him to be boring.
A wet napkin.
We don't look. He's not going to be Shaq in that team, right? None of these guys. Maybe Paul. Maybe Biz.
Could you imagine Wayne Gretzky and Rick Tocchet just shit talking each other all the time?
Well, I wonder how they mix it up and who's on how often and how often we actually get to see Gretzky there. Which I have to say, it is very weird saying his name again around the game. He was a coach for a while. Yeah. Like growing up, you say it all the time. We said it all the time. Even shortly after, you were always comparing players and how the league was and whatever. It's very weird in this like different capacity to be saying his name, like that he's still involved in the game.
Right.
Even though it's been in like a much more reduced capacity in the last decade or so.
Yeah.
Carter, Tocchet, and Biz I could see them being fun. As much as Biz rubs me the wrong way, and he's not my favorite, and I think he's the wrong kind of controversial.
The league loves him.
It will be entertaining. I know he'll be on a short leash with them. And I will say, good on him for the hustle. He just worked his ass off since retiring. I credit where credit is due. I don't like some of the antics that have gotten him there, or where he's represented elsewhere, I got to hand the hustle to him. He's done a great job, and it's cool that he landed this gig. It's cool that he's being recognized. I know he's working with the league quite a bit in the off season and doing the what's in the box sketch with some players. That was really fun. But I can see the three of them being interesting. Like, I think I can't think of other players that would make a TNT type panel like they have for the NBA. This is pretty close.
Yeah.
These are fun guys that they're not the all-stars that TNT panel has for the NBA, but it's fun.
Yeah.
They're going to bring a different perspective. I think that's fine.
Right.
And also it's great to see Botterill there. I think that's awesome. And El Bashar was with the Athletic, did Washington Post stuff, a lot of stuff with the Capitals. Awesome to see that. Obviously, you know, when Islanders are playing the Capitals, you read some of his stuff and seen him around. So cool to see. You know, just different names. I like that. It's fresh. You know, there's some. I like Darren Pang. I could do without Olczyk and Keith Jones. We've got enough of them over the years. I don't care.
I like Liam McHugh. He's a great host of a show. It's gonna.
Oh my god, he's great, and he's. I love that he's a Long Island guy.
Yep,
it's so much fun.
Yeah.
There are like secretly a lot of Long Island guys around the game still.
Yeah, absolutely.
You learn about that, even out of sports. I learned Fred Arbison, guy from Portlandia.
Yeah.
You know he grew up on Long Island?
What? Really?
He was born in Mississippi, grew up on Long Island. Craziness. I heard that the other day.
I did not know that.
I heard it from. All right, I say this. I heard it from him. Like we were hanging out, or I ran into him at like the grocery store.
He told me.
He told me, yeah, just like super cash. No, I was listening to Smartless. My break from hockey. Listening to Smartless. He was the interviewee for that, and yeah, and they said that. And I was like, and you know what? And you could tell he grew up there because he said on Long Island, and I was like, wow, that's some truth. He wasn't trying to pass off like he grew up there for a few years. Like, it clearly made an impact on his language. So it was cool to hear that. But yeah, all these people around the game in general, cool, famous people from Long Island. I think Gary Bettman's from Long Island. There's a whole lot.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, John. I think that does it for this week.
I think so. There's not a ton of news. Like, the NHL's gonna be quiet until getting close to training camp.
I'd expect it to ramp up a little bit. You know, rookie camps are happening right now, and next week we're one step closer.
Yeah, we'll be close. I'd be surprised if not before next episode, right after things start to kind of, because there might be some movement. Players either going back to the KHL, waivers.
Yeah, we'll see some
whatever stuff. I think of course it will be right after we record next week, but
probably
we'll figure it out. We'll make it work.
We want to say a quick thank you to DraftKings and Manscaped. Use that THPN promo code with DraftKings and NHB20 promo code with Manscaped. The Hockey Podcast Network, the Hockey Writers, and of course all of you, our listeners. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Nasserman Hockey. You can also join our Discord, like we mentioned earlier, for a safe space to chat with fellow Islander fans. Lastly, you can find our work at thehockeywriters.com. And until the next show, everybody, let's go Islanders.